It was 2:47 a.m. on a freezing November night when Officer Rachel Martinez heard the sound that would change her life forever. A whimper, soft, desperate, coming from somewhere in the darkness behind the gas station. Rachel had been a police officer in rural Montana for 8 years. She'd seen a lot, handled domestic disputes, car accidents, bar fights, missing persons cases. She thought she'd seen everything. She was wrong. When she turned around, she saw 2 eyes reflecting in her flashlight beam. Small eyes, pleading eyes. A German Shepherd puppy, no more than 8 weeks old, was sitting in the middle of the empty parking lot, shivering, alone, and staring directly at her. "Hey there, little one," Rachel said softly, kneeling down. "Where's your mama?" The puppy didn't run. Instead, she did something that made Rachel's heart skip a beat. She took 3 tiny steps forward, sat down again, and let out another whimper. Then she looked back over her shoulder toward the dark woods behind the gas station. She looked at Rachel again. Back at the woods. Back at Rachel. She was trying to communicate something. Rachel had no idea that following this tiny puppy into those woods would lead her to a discovery that would bring a decorated police officer to her knees in tears, a discovery that would expose a terrible crime, and a discovery that would prove that sometimes the smallest heroes have the biggest hearts. Before we begin this incredible true story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. This is a story about courage, loyalty, and a love so powerful it transcends species, and you're going to want to share this with everyone you know. And I promise you, you won't see this ending coming. Let me take you back to the beginning of that night. Officer Rachel Martinez, 32 years old, was on the graveyard shift in Glacier County, Montana. Population, 13,000. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where the nearest Walmart is 45 miles away, and where police calls are usually about livestock on the highway or teenagers drinking in pickup trucks. Rachel had taken this job 8 years ago, fresh out of the police academy. She'd grown up in Los Angeles, spent her whole life in the city. Her family thought she was crazy when she applied for a position in rural Montana. "Why would you leave LA for the middle of nowhere?" her mother had asked. Rachel's answer was simple. Because in a small town, you can actually make a difference. You can know the people you're protecting. You can be part of a community, not just a badge. She'd never regretted her decision. Not once. But tonight felt different. It was November 17th. The temperature had dropped to 19 degrees Fahrenheit. Her breath created clouds of vapor in the air as she stood outside her patrol car at the stop-and-go gas station on Highway 89. She'd pulled over to fill out some paperwork and grab a coffee. The night had been quiet, too quiet, really. That's when she heard it, the whimper. Rachel's training kicked in immediately. She grabbed her flashlight, swept the beam across the parking lot, and that's when she saw her. The puppy was so small she could have fit in Rachel's 2 hands cupped together. Her fur was the classic German Shepherd coloring, black and tan, but it was matted and dirty. Her oversized puppy ears stood up comically large on her tiny head. She was shaking violently, whether from cold or fear, Rachel couldn't tell. "Oh, baby," Rachel whispered, her heart already breaking. "What are you doing out here alone?" She approached slowly, the way she'd learned in the K-9 unit training she'd completed 2 years ago. Non-threatening, calm, steady. The puppy didn't run. That was the first strange thing. Most scared dogs would bolt. But this puppy sat there, watching Rachel approach, and then did something that made Rachel pause. The puppy stood up, took 3 wobbly steps toward Rachel, then stopped. She turned her head back toward the dark tree line behind the gas station. She whimpered again, louder this time, more urgent. Then she looked back at Rachel. Rachel had been around dogs her whole life. Her family had always had them. And she'd worked with enough K-9 units to understand canine behavior pretty well. This wasn't random. This puppy was trying to tell her something. "What is it, girl?" Rachel asked, kneeling down fully now. "What are you trying to show me?" The puppy took a few more steps, now heading toward the woods. She stopped, looked back at Rachel, whimpered again. Rachel felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. Every instinct she had as a police officer was suddenly on high alert. Something was wrong, very wrong. She pulled out her radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 7. "Go ahead, Unit 7. "I'm at the stop and go on Highway 89. I've got a situation here. Found a puppy, looks like a German Shepherd, maybe 8 weeks old. She seems to be trying to lead me somewhere. Requesting backup before I investigate." There was a pause. "Unit 7, did you say? A puppy is trying to lead you somewhere?" Rachel knew how it sounded. "Affirmative, dispatch. I know it sounds strange, but trust me on this. Something's not right." "Copy that. Unit 4 is about 15 minutes out. Can you wait for backup?" Rachel looked at the puppy. She was sitting again, still staring at Rachel with those pleading eyes. Still shivering. 15 minutes in this cold could mean life or death for whatever or whoever was out there. "Negative, dispatch. I'm going in. But keep this channel open." "Be careful, Rachel." Rachel approached the puppy slowly. She took off her jacket, her thick, department-issued jacket that she definitely wasn't supposed to remove on duty, and wrapped it around the tiny dog. The puppy licked her hand. "Okay, baby girl," Rachel said softly. "Show me. Show me what you need me to see." The puppy immediately started moving. Not running, not frantically, but with clear purpose, checking every few steps to make sure Rachel was following. They left the lit parking lot and entered the tree line. Rachel's flashlight beam cut through the darkness, illuminating pine trees and underbrush. Her hand instinctively went to her service weapon, unsnapping the holster. She'd been a cop long enough to know that people who abandon puppies in the middle of nowhere sometimes have other, darker secrets. The puppy led her deeper into the woods, 50 yards, then 100. The sound of the highway faded behind them. "Where are we going, little one?" Rachel murmured. The forest floor was covered in pine needles and fallen leaves. Rachel's boots crunched with every step, the sound echoing in the cold night air. Her breath came out in clouds. Then the puppy stopped. They were at a small clearing. Rachel swept her flashlight across the area. At first she didn't see anything unusual, just trees, darkness. But the puppy was whimpering again, more urgently now. She was looking at something specific. Rachel followed her gaze and saw it. An old pickup truck, partially hidden by branches and overgrowth. It had been there a while. The tires were flat, the paint was faded and rusty. It looked abandoned. But there was something else, fresh tire tracks leading up to it, recent disturbance in the dirt. And the back tailgate was down. Rachel's police instincts went into overdrive. "Dispatch, I've located what appears to be an abandoned vehicle in the woods, approximately 150 yards northeast of the stop and go. Fresh activity. Investigating now." She approached the truck carefully, flashlight in one hand, other hand on her weapon. The puppy stayed close to her legs, still whimpering. When Rachel reached the truck bed and shined her light inside, she gasped. There were blankets, food bowls, and 5 more puppies. But these puppies weren't moving much. They were huddled together in the corner of the truck bed, shaking violently. One of them wasn't moving at all. "Oh my God," Rachel whispered. She immediately climbed into the truck bed. The puppies were in bad shape, hypothermic, dehydrated. One was unconscious, but that wasn't all. Behind the pile of blankets, Rachel saw something else. A chain. Heavy. Industrial. And it led to... Rachel's flashlight found what was at the end of the chain, and her blood ran cold. A full-grown German Shepherd. Female. Lying on her side. Not moving. "No, no, no!" Rachel said, rushing over. She knelt beside the dog, put her hand near her muzzle. There was breath. Shallow, but there. The dog was alive. Barely. Rachel quickly assessed her condition with the emergency first aid training all officers received. The dog had clearly given birth recently, probably to these puppies. She was emaciated, severely dehydrated. There were scars on her body suggesting abuse, and the chain around her neck was so tight it had worn through her fur and into her skin. Someone had chained this dog out here, let her give birth alone in the cold, and left her and her puppies to die. Rachel felt rage like she'd never felt before, but there was no time for anger. She needed to act. Dispatch, I need animal control, a veterinarian, and backup immediately. I have 7 German shepherds, 1 adult female, and 6 puppies. They're in critical condition. I need transport now. Copy that, Unit 7. Unit 4 is 2 minutes out. Calling Dr. Stevens. Rachel looked down at the little puppy who had led her here, the puppy who had somehow escaped, who had found her way to that gas station, who had refused to give up until someone followed her back to save her family. This tiny, 8-week-old puppy had just saved 7 lives. "You're so brave," Rachel whispered, tears streaming down her face. "You're so brave." The puppy licked her hand again, then immediately scrambled over to her mother, curling up against her chest. Rachel carefully gathered all 6 puppies and wrapped them in the blankets, holding them against her body to share warmth. The mother dog's eyes flickered open for just a moment. She looked at Rachel, and in that look, Rachel saw something that would haunt her forever: gratitude and trust. This dog, who had every reason to fear and hate humans, was trusting a human to save her babies. "I've got you," Rachel promised. "All of you. I promise you're safe now." The next 3 hours were a blur. Officer Mike Patterson, Unit 4, arrived first. When Rachel explained the situation, this hardened officer who'd served 2 tours in Afghanistan had tears in his eyes. Dr. Benjamin Stevens, the local veterinarian, arrived in his pickup truck still wearing his pajamas. He'd been asleep when the call came through, but he'd dressed in 30 seconds and broken every speed limit getting there. "How bad?" he asked as he climbed into the truck bed. "Very bad," Rachel said. "The mother is barely hanging on. One of the puppies isn't responding." Dr. Stevens worked quickly, efficiently. He checked vitals, started IV fluids on the mother right there in the truck bed, examined each puppy. "We need to get them to the clinic, now. The mother has maybe an hour if we don't get her stabilized. 2 of the puppies are hypothermic, and this one," he held up the smallest one, the one who wasn't moving, "this one is critical." They loaded all the dogs into Dr. Stevens' truck, which he'd converted into a mobile vet unit. Rachel insisted on riding in the back with them. The drive to the clinic was 20 minutes. 20 minutes that felt like 20 hours. Rachel held the mother dog's head in her lap, whispering to her, "Stay with us. Your babies need you. That brave little girl who found me needs you. Please stay." The little puppy, the hero of the story, stayed pressed against her mother's chest the entire ride, as if she could keep her alive through sheer force of will. They arrived at the Mountain View Animal Clinic at 4:17 a.m. Dr. Stevens' wife, Patricia, who was also a vet tech, was already there with the lights on and the treatment room prepared. She'd called in 2 more staff members. What happened next was a coordinated emergency effort that would have impressed any hospital ER. The mother dog was rushed into surgery. She needed fluid resuscitation, antibiotics, wound treatment, and emergency care for severe malnutrition and exposure. The puppies were placed in incubators with heating pads. The critical one, later they'd name him Fighter, needed oxygen and subcutaneous fluids. Rachel refused to leave. She called her sergeant, explained the situation, and officially used her emergency discretion to stay. "Those dogs need me," she told him. "I understand, Martinez. Keep me posted." Hour after hour, Rachel sat in that waiting room. Mike Patterson brought her coffee at 6 a.m. The sunrise came and went. Other officers stopped by during their shifts to check on the situation. Word had spread through the small community. By 9 a.m., there were a dozen people in that waiting room. Farmers, teachers, the owner of the diner, the librarian, all there to support the dogs. That's the thing about small towns. When something matters, everyone shows up. At 11:34 a.m., Dr. Stevens emerged from the treatment room. Rachel stood up so fast she almost knocked over her coffee. The expression on his face was unreadable. "Tell me," Rachel said. Dr. Stevens smiled. Actually smiled. "She's going to make it. They're all going to make it." The waiting room erupted in cheers and tears. "The mother, we're calling her Hope for now. She's stable. She's got a long recovery ahead. Weeks, maybe months. But she's a fighter. They all are." "And the puppies?" "All 6 are responding to treatment. Even Fighter. That little guy apparently decided he wasn't done yet." Rachel felt her knees go weak with relief. Mike caught her arm. "Can I see them?" she asked. "Come on back." Dr. Stevens led Rachel to the recovery room. There, in a large warming pen, were all 6 puppies. They were sleeping peacefully, curled up together, their tiny bellies full of formula, their bodies wrapped in soft blankets. And in a separate recovery cage, Hope lay resting. She was hooked up to IV lines, bandages covered her wounds, but her eyes were open, alert. When Rachel approached, Hope's tail gave one weak thump. "Hey, beautiful," Rachel whispered. "You did so good. Your babies are safe. All of them." Dr. Stevens pointed to the little puppy who'd started it all, the brave one who'd found Rachel. "That one's special. She was the only one healthy enough to escape. Somehow she got out of that truck bed, probably squeezed through a gap in the tailgate. She traveled God knows how far through those woods to find the highway, found that gas station, and waited for someone who would listen." "She's a hero," Rachel said softly. "She saved her entire family," Dr. Stevens agreed. 8 weeks old, and she's already a hero. Rachel knelt beside the pen. The little puppy, they started calling her Scout, opened her eyes. She looked at Rachel and her tail started wagging. In that moment, Rachel Martinez made a decision that would change her life forever. But this story wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Rachel was a police officer, and a crime had been committed. Animal cruelty. Abandonment. Possibly more. That afternoon, after grabbing 3 hours of sleep, Rachel returned to the scene with a full investigative team. The truck had been there for at least a week based on the evidence. Someone had deliberately driven into those woods, chained up a pregnant dog, and left her there to die. The truck had no plates, but it had a VIN number. Rachel ran it. It came back registered to a Marcus Coldwell, 47, with an address in the next county over. Rachel and Mike drove to the address. It was a rural property, run down, with several outbuildings and what looked like kennels. When they pulled up, Rachel's instincts started screaming again. She could hear dogs barking, a lot of dogs. Marcus Coldwell answered the door. 50-something, unshaven, hostile. "What do you want?" he demanded. "Mr. Coldwell, I'm Officer Martinez. We found a truck registered to you in the woods off Highway 89, with dogs chained in it." His expression didn't change. "Truck was stolen months ago. Reported it." Rachel checked. He was lying. No report had ever been filed. "Sir, we're going to need to ask you some questions, and we'd like to check your property. You got a warrant? We can get one. Or you can cooperate and this goes easier." What happened next would lead to one of the largest animal cruelty cases in Montana state history. After obtaining a warrant, which took 3 hours and a very understanding judge, police and animal control returned to Coldwell's property. What they found was horrifying. 32 dogs, all German shepherds, all in various states of neglect. living in filthy conditions, some injured, some sick. Marcus Coldwell had been running an unlicensed breeding operation. He bred German shepherds and sold them online, but he kept the dogs in deplorable conditions. When Hope had gotten pregnant, probably for the fourth or fifth time, and had complications, instead of getting her medical care, he'd driven her into the woods and abandoned her. He'd left her there to die because she was no longer profitable. The evidence was overwhelming. Documentation, online sales records, testimony from people who'd bought puppies from him and noticed they were sick or traumatized. Marcus Coldwell was arrested and charged with 32 counts of animal cruelty, abandonment with intent to cause death, and operating an illegal breeding facility. All 32 dogs were seized and taken into the care of Mountain View Animal Clinic and the local animal rescue. The case made regional news, then national news. The story of the brave little puppy who'd led a police officer through the woods to save her family captured hearts across the country. Donations poured in, money for medical care, offers to adopt, support from animal welfare organizations nationwide. But through it all, Rachel stayed focused on one thing: making sure Hope and her puppies recovered. Over the next 8 weeks, Rachel visited the clinic every single day. She'd stop by before her shift, during her lunch break, after work. She couldn't stay away. She watched as Hope slowly healed. The physical wounds closed. The weight came back. Her coat became shiny and healthy. But more importantly, the fear in her eyes began to fade. Dr. Stevens worked with a canine behavioral specialist. Hope had been so traumatized that she needed careful, patient rehabilitation. She'd been abused for years, used as a breeding machine. She'd never known kindness or safety. But slowly, gradually, she learned to trust. The person she trusted most was Rachel. "She knows you saved her," Patricia told Rachel one afternoon. "Dogs understand more than we give them credit for. She knows you're the reason her babies are alive." The puppies thrived. All 6 of them grew healthy and strong. Fighter, the little one who'd almost died, turned out to be the most energetic of the bunch. Scout, the brave one, was confident and smart, already showing signs of the intelligence German shepherds are famous for. Word spread about the puppies. Adoption applications came from across the country. The rescue was careful, screening every applicant thoroughly. These puppies deserved the best homes possible. One by one, the puppies were adopted. Fighter went to a family with 3 kids who promised to let him live up to his name. 2 of the puppies went to a farm where they'd have acres to run. 2 more went to families who'd lost their elderly dogs and were ready to love again. Each adoption was bittersweet. Rachel was there for every single one, holding the puppies one last time, making sure the families understood how special these dogs were. But she couldn't let them all go. Scout, the little hero who'd started everything, Rachel couldn't imagine letting her go to anyone else. "I want to adopt her," Rachel told Dr. Stevens 8 weeks after that cold November night. "I was wondering when you'd say that," he smiled. "I already started the paperwork." Hope was another story. Her physical recovery was complete. But emotionally, she was still fragile. She'd been through so much. The behavioral specialist said she'd probably never be comfortable in a home with other dogs or in chaotic environments. She needed peace, quiet, patience, and someone who understood trauma. Every potential adopter who met Hope fell in love with her. But every time they tried to take her to their home for a trial visit, Hope would shut down. She'd freeze up, refuse to eat. She'd come back to the clinic and immediately go to one person: Rachel. One evening, Rachel was sitting with Hope in the recovery room. Scout was curled up in her lap. The little puppy, now 16 weeks old, all gangly legs and oversized paws. Hope was lying next to Rachel, her head resting on Rachel's thigh. Dr. Stevens came in and found them like that. "You know what you need to do," he said gently. Rachel looked up at him, tears in her eyes. "I can't take both of them," I work long shifts. I've never had 2 dogs before. My apartment isn't that big. Rachel, Dr. Stevens interrupted. That dog chose you. You saved her life. She trusts you. And more importantly, she loves you. I've been doing this for 25 years. That dog will never be happy with anyone else. Rachel looked down at Hope, at those gentle brown eyes that had seen so much suffering, but still had hope left in them. I'd have to move, Rachel said. Find a house with a yard. There's a place for rent on my street, Patricia called from the other room. 3 bedrooms, fenced yard, allows pets. Owner's a friend. Rachel laughed through her tears. You two planned this, didn't you? Maybe, Dr. Stevens grinned. 3 weeks later, Rachel Martinez signed a lease on a small house on Maple Street. It had a fenced backyard, a fireplace, and enough room for 2 German shepherds who'd been through hell and back. Moving day was chaos. Officers from the department showed up to help. Half the town seemed to bring housewarming gifts. Most of them were dog toys and beds. When Rachel finally closed the door that evening, she looked around at her new home. Scout was already exploring, sniffing everything, tail wagging constantly. And Hope, beautiful, brave Hope, was sitting in the middle of the living room watching Rachel. Rachel sat down on the floor. Hope walked over and put her head in Rachel's lap. Welcome home, Rachel whispered. Both of you. You're safe now. Forever. Hope's tail wagged. Slowly at first, then faster. It was the first time Rachel had seen her truly, completely happy. Scout bounced over and crawled into Rachel's lap, licking her face enthusiastically, making Hope jump a little before settling back down. And Rachel realized something. She hadn't saved them. They'd saved her. A year has passed since that cold November night. Marcus Coldwell was convicted on all charges. He received the maximum sentence, 5 years in prison and a lifetime ban from owning animals. All 32 dogs from his property were rehabilitated and adopted into loving homes. The case led to stricter breeding regulations in Montana and inspired similar legislation in 4 other states. But the real story, the important story, is about what happened to the heroes. Scout is now a certified therapy dog. Rachel brings her to schools, hospitals, and nursing homes. Her job is to bring comfort and joy, and she's amazing at it. She's also in training to become a search and rescue dog. Turns out the bravery she showed at 8 weeks old was just the beginning. Scout has found her calling, helping people. Hope lives a quieter life. She's content to spend her days in the backyard, sunbathing, playing with Scout, and being loved. She's gained 30 pounds of healthy weight. Her coat is gorgeous. And most importantly, the fear is gone from her eyes. She sleeps in Rachel's room every night. And sometimes, in the middle of the night, Rachel will wake up to find Hope watching her, as if she's still making sure this isn't a dream. Rachel's life has changed completely. She's become an advocate for animal welfare. She speaks at schools about responsible pet ownership. She works with the local rescue on weekends. And every November 17th, on the anniversary of the night she found Scout, Rachel takes both dogs back to that gas station on Highway 89. They stand in that parking lot together. And Rachel tells them the story, even though they were there, even though they lived it. She tells them about the bravest puppy she ever met. About a mother's love so strong she held on just long enough to be saved. About how sometimes the smallest voices can change everything if someone is willing to listen. Last month, a reporter asked Rachel if she considered herself a hero. Rachel laughed. No, the heroes are sleeping on my couch right now. One of them snores, the other one steals socks. They're the heroes. But here's what Rachel doesn't know, what she's too humble to see. She's a hero too. Because on that cold November night, when she could have dismissed the whimpering puppy as just a stray, when she could have waited for backup, when she could have done a dozen things differently, she made one choice that mattered. She listened. She followed. And she refused to give up. That's what heroes do. Not because they're looking for recognition or glory, but because when something needs them, they show up. Rachel showed up for Scout and Hope, and they showed up for her. And together, they proved that the most powerful force in the world isn't strength or violence or power. It's love. The kind of love that makes an 8-week-old puppy travel through freezing woods to find help. The kind of love that makes a police officer follow a tiny dog into the darkness. The kind of love that refuses to give up even when everything seems hopeless. That's the kind of love that changes the world. One cold night, one small puppy, one person willing to listen. That's all it takes. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and share it with everyone you know. Scout and Hope's story is a reminder that heroes come in all sizes, and that sometimes the most important thing we can do is simply pay attention to those asking for help. Subscribe to this channel for more incredible true stories of courage, love, and the unbreakable bond between humans and animals. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. And if you're in a position to adopt, foster, or support your local animal rescue, please do. There are thousands of Scouts and Hopes out there waiting for their Rachel to find them. Thank you for watching. Until next time, keep listening. You never know who might need you to hear them.